Thanks, Roger. John, thanks for pulling this together and hosting this. We're obviously focusing on these issues nationwide. That's why John's here. We're looking across the country, talked about New York, talked about Portland, looking at places all over the country, and I'm proud to partner with these guys to do that. We're here in Austin, Texas, which is home to at least the three of us who are representing parts of Austin. I live outside of Austin, towards Dripping Springs, Texas. I love Austin. Austin's a great city. Austin's a city that, I'm proud of its history and its legacy of what it is as a city. But Austin is in trouble because of a reckless Democrat city council that is endangering its citizens. That's just the facts. And that's just the truth. And we know that, and we see it happening every day. My great-great-grandfather was a Texas Ranger in Travis, Hays, and Blanco counties. My grandfather was the chief of police of Sweetwater, Texas. I worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office and Project Safe Neighborhoods, rooting out drugs and gun crimes, partnering with local law enforcement. Worked in the Attorney General's office, and the head of law enforcement there is the first assistant attorney general, working with them to root out crime across the state of Texas. It is so critical to a functioning and free society that we root out crime. And right now, unfortunately, Democrats in Austin, Texas, and the city council, including Mayor Adler, and people across this country in Washington, D.C., are against law enforcement and for making it easy for criminals to run ramshot over the people of Austin, Texas. Right now, there is some little girl moving up I-35 right now as we speak that is going to be put into the human and sex trafficking trade. That's happening right now as we sit here. We have gangs right now that are organizing in Austin, Texas to have another shooting just like we had on 6th Street a few weeks ago because law enforcement is hamstrung, unable to do what they need to do because they have to divert resources to fund and have the resources for 911 calls and to actually police the streets. And now gangs are empowered. Human trafficking units aren't able to intercept that little girl before she gets sold into that trade. Right now, we have some young American, some young Texan in Westlake, Austin, East Austin, North Austin, who's going to die of an opioid overdose because of something like Xanax being laced with fentanyl. Now that we have 8,500 pounds of fentanyl that has been intercepted at our border, but that's not all that fentanyl that's coming in. You talk to DPS, we now know that fentanyl is coming into Texas, into our communities. And you all in the media see this every day when you see the horror stories of our young people dying from opioid overdoses. 92,000 across this country. 92,000. That is a direct result of open borders, a direct result of undermining our law enforcement and our police officers, a direct result of coddling criminals and not putting the resources necessary to actually root out crime on our streets. It's enough. The American people are tired of it. The people of Texas are tired of it. The people of Austin are tired of it. And we're here to stand with law enforcement and to have their back. The fact of the matter is, and I alluded to it before, of course, local funding for police is an inherently local issue. We live in the community. This is our community. When that bomb went off 2 years ago in Austin, Texas, that was less than a mile from my kid's school. And Chief Manley and law enforcement sought that out, solved that crime, and were able to go get that guy. And guess what? Today, they're strapped with resources. How would they be able to go manage that right now when they've got 300 fewer police officers because of the infinite wisdom of the Democrats and City Council in Austin, Texas? And what I mentioned before, when we're overrun by fentanyl, cartel activity, all of the crime coming in because our borders are open, the Constitution is pretty explicit about our federal authority in trying to make sure we enforce the border. So we're here saying we're standing with law enforcement about what they need to do to protect our cities and our streets and to make sure that every Texan is well aware of the danger imposed on our community by the incompetence of the local decision making here in Austin, Texas, but not just in Austin, throughout our nation. And we're trying to root out organized crime around the country. That is a inherently local, state, and federal issue in which we share information and work together, which I did when I was in Project Safe Neighborhoods. I was employed by Fannin County, Texas, but worked in the United States Attorney's Office, because that's how that worked. We worked with local law enforcement to root out all of the drug trafficking coming up, in my case, through Dallas, Texas, up 75, up through McKinney, and going up north. We worked together to do that the way that I think you're supposed to coordinate to do that.